Hello, and welcome to another episode of AWS Tech Tales. I'm your host, Matt Burke.
And I am your co-host, Samara Reaño. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the show where we talk about real-life customer problems, what you can
hmm
do to solve them, and how you can use some of the common AWS services to
hmm
solve your challenges in the cloud. Today, we're going to be talking about Amazon Athena, Amazon QuickSight, and we're going to be picking up right where we left off last week. Where did we leave off last week, Samara?
we last week we were trying to pretty much create a glue crawler, and then I started having technical difficulties. I couldn't hear anybody. I'm sorry.
You
I
don't
don't
have
know
to
what
tell them
happened.
that. Leave it in the past.
Yes, but I am excited to come back today and pick up right where we left off. I think that Amazon Athena is one of those services that I feel that you kind of like hear about, you use from time to time, but you don't really kind of deep dive really into all of the capabilities that it has and how you can pretty much use it. So that's why I thought that it was a great topic to cover during this like 3 installment series that we have going on with me.
So last time, folks, and please feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us
Yeah,
know that
hi.
you're out
Check
there.
in. Let us know where you're joining from.
We got a lot of questions about how you set up Athena,
Mm-hmm.
how this would work with S3. And there's a lot of chatter, and I feel like we were showing folks for the first time the
Mm-hmm.
power of if I just want to query my data, how can I do that quickly, easily, fast, which was really cool. But we have a lot more to
Yes, we
show
do.
them. Before we get into it, if anyone in the audience is curious, like in terms of questions about Athena or even QuickSight, we have. How far were we going to go today before we get to QuickSight tomorrow?
So I definitely want to go all the way to showcasing how you can actually query and visualize data using QuickSight, using Athena. So I think that that's one of like, I guess, my favorite parts about using Athena. I mean, like we see it in a lot, especially for example, in cost management, where you're quickly want to get data within like what is your cost, how are you using your services, that type of stuff. There is so much queries that you can use to able to pinpoint that data points. So I think that it would be a very interesting topic to cover today.
Awesome.
So
So
maybe some of you are already doing this. So you guys are going to be helping me along the way, also telling me how to go about it as well.
I think we find a lot of our viewers have either started some of these projects or have a good opinion. Usually when we're
Mm-hmm.
troubleshooting, someone is beating us to the punch in terms of what the
Exactly.
solutions are,
Exactly.
which we love to see here. Nobody figured out what was wrong last week though when we tried to create this glue crawler. But now we're back to show that it can be done.
It could be done. And indeed, it can be. We were just having a bit of a, I guess, like a funny little time trying to get through that step. But, without further ado, let's jump right back in. And I think, Matt, I don't know if you still have the links from the last time that we kind of shared for those of you that are just joining
Well,
this week.
if you want, Samara, you can pull up our community page
That's
where
true.
I have up to date this time.
Yep.
Usually I am not up to date. CS ArchVZ, hola, welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. I'll pull this right on. Yep, you got it right on
I
screen.
got it. Yeah.
I think we
So
need to update this screenshot. I don't know.
are we? I love these pictures of us. I feel like it pretty much captures perfectly what we go through on a weekly basis
Yes.
during this stream. I think that last week it was reverse, the emotions.
Yes, I agree with that.
Well, but yes, back to what Matt was saying, we have, and we can point you all back right to the past episodes, and we have them all the way from like our last seasons that we have had. So you can jump in any of those episodes if you want to catch up, and then just kind of see where we left off last week, and maybe try to decipher what was going on last week with me and my issues as well.
Yeah, so the show notes are available, Samara, if you want to click into it for last week.
Yes, give me. Was it
All the way down. All the way down.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
no, not that far.
right here. All right, there you go. Yeah, that's true. There you go. It's all ready to go.
And we got our links. So You
Oh
can
yes,
scrub through
this is
that.
what I
Yeah.
was referring to. Yes, absolutely. So if you guys want to jump back into our community page, go ahead, read through the FAQs for Athena, as well as the Athena safe queries, and then we're going to be pushing more documentation that we will refer to as we go through today's presentation.
So I will put that in the chat for folks.
Yes.
So you can go straight to that. So if anyone asks when they come in later today, what are we doing? Where do we start? We have the link for them already there.
We are already there. Exactly. Okay. So without any more further ado, so this is exactly where we were last time. We wanted to create tables with glue. So what I literally am going to do right now, it's in the console, go to AWS Glue. And we're going to go down to data catalogs, and we're going to click on crawlers. We're going to create a crawler. We're going to name the crawler Athena Sales. And the description is optional, but then you can add in the description or tags if that's what you want to do with your crawler. I'm going to hit next.
And for context, folks, what Samara did last week is we put some data in an S3 bucket. We made sure that we could see it and we could query it within Athena. But what we're doing is we're now building this crawler to keep that data fresh.
Exactly. Yep. All right. So in the data source confirmation, the answer to your question is your data already mapped to Glue tables? We're going to put not yet. This is the first time that we're going to do it. And then under data source, we have to add the data source, in this instance, the S3 bucket that Matt was just talking and referring to. So I'm going to add a data source. I'm going to make sure that my data source is S3. And then I'm going to browse S3. This is the bucket that I want, so I'm going to click on it. Want to get to my basics, and then I'm going to go to the Parquet, and then I'm going to select the sales. So once I have that, I'll click on choose, and everything else is to leave as is. And then I'm going to put the add S3 data source. As you can see now, we see it down there mapping to that specific S3 bucket, and then the parameters is to recrawl all. We'll go to the next step. And in this step, it's where we want to create a new IAM role. So
Samara, you want to make this a little teensy bit bigger?
Oh, the browser itself?
Yeah, I'll zoom in just a little bit.
Is that better?
That's perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Like I might need to get my glasses on. Otherwise, and the viewers might too. Might be like, excuse me.
Yeah, well, you know what? You are right, because for me, since the screen, like my external monitor is so close to me, like for me, it's super good, but then I can totally
and you have your
understand
glasses
what I'm using. And I have my glasses on, exactly. So I have a lot on you. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so I'll go ahead and put here my sales crawler.
I don't know how to pronounce your name. TOT YLK O'Gary says nice wallpaper, which I think is just the stock Mac OS wallpaper.
I wish I could take credit and say that this was a beautiful photograph that I captured in one of my hikes or something like that, but that is not the case. It's just a Mac background.
But look, Samara's in California. She's representing California right now.
That is correct, exactly. And I do love hiking. So yeah, thank you. Actually, this is the reason why I have my background in this, for those of you that didn't catch it. I feel like this is my favorite view in the whole wide world, the trees and the green. So yeah, definitely. All right. So as you could see, my IAM role was successful. So I'm going to go ahead and go to next. And then for my target database, I'm going to choose my default one. Okay, and then if I want to have a table name prefix, I will put Athena _ glue _ and that's what I would have as a prefix. Then I will go on the next button. And this is just the review and create. to just make sure that everything is as how I want it to be set up. So everything looks good. So
And
I'm gonna
typically when I get to these pages, I just go quickly to the create as quickly as possible, and then you realize you made a mistake.
right. So you always kind of want to review and make sure that everything is good. So then I'll go ahead and just create the crawler, and we can see that it has successfully created. So now what I want to do next is actually run the crawler. So for this, I'll click on run. Then it says that it's starting the crawler. So we'll see as it goes through. This step might take between a minute to 4 minutes, depending on how much data. But it's usually pretty straightforward and it doesn't take that long. But I guess I'll give it time.
Do the waiting music tomorrow?
Yeah, the waiting music. Where's the elevator music? There you go.
So you could schedule these crawler runs. Anything else, or is it just scheduling?
I mean, you can. So pretty much like the you can set it up to whatever you like. You can do the schedule. You can also look around for the data sources. In this instance, like I said, I have it direct to this one specific S3 bucket where I have the data that I specifically want to query. And then also you have the option to add tags and whatnot. So it's totally up to you, the type, how you want to set it up and configure.
And what I'm seeing from the data sources too is that like you can be grabbing this from all different S3 buckets to dump it into one place.
Exactly. Yep. But let me go back to my crawler runs. It's running. So we're seeing it's working. Everything is good. So we just kind of quickly wait for that. In the meantime, I guess I'll check in the comments.
Oh, it's quiet. It's quiet in there. They are just ready to see the action. You know,
they're ready to see the action. Exactly. Yeah. I'm curious. Matt, do you use Athena a lot in your day-to-day, or when you see your customer kind of asking a lot about how to query, how to use it, that sort of thing?
I generally have been using it, like you said, for billing and cost management. So a lot of folks will take their cost and usage report data and they'll pull that into Athena. And we have quick shout out to some of my buddies here at Amazon. We have the Kirk query library. So if folks are interested, let us know in the chat and I will drop the link. But we have some pre-built queries for you that you can use to just get a better understanding of your costs, get a quick report, make things easy. Because as Damara was showing last week, you can just save a bunch of queries. And then that way, if someone asks you a specific cost question every month, you just bring up that saved query, run it for the next month, and go on with your day.
Yep, that is correct. Okay, so as we were seeing here, it took a minute and 50 seconds, but it's already completed. So now we have our table. Let's go make sure that our table is created properly. So we'll go back to Athena. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the AWS data. Oh, give me a second. And then the Athena glue table right here. So this is what we created right now. So we see it here as under the tables and then everything that came in within that specific batch of data. So pretty straightforward to this point. Any questions here, Matt?
No, I think so. We've got I guess my question is, what is this data that we now have that we want to query?
Yeah. So then exactly. So we're seeing that we have like car ID, customer ID, price. So this is all sales data, right? We're doing synthetic data to kind of just showcase the capability of it, but you can pretty much see everything that has come within it, right? This is essentially the data that you will be querying. Obviously, it's up to each use case what data you're pulling, but it's essentially pretty straightforward. And I feel like it's like super what is it called, like UI friendly, because you know exactly what you're bringing rather than like, okay, yeah, there is this table, but what's inside of this table? What essentially am I bringing in?
And we have Todi Colgary. I keep butchering your handle. Why year is in string partition? That's a good question.
Oh,
I don't know if you know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one either. Yeah, I would not know exactly why in this specific scenario it's already partitioned, but yeah. Okay, so I'll go ahead and since I want to start querying within this data, this is a step that we want to do. There's these three dots right here, right next to the table. What I'm essentially going to do is load it into the query editor. So I'm going to do preview table. And so now we're going to start asking questions here. As you can see, it gives you pretty much the query results. And then like, as we see, right, the card ID, the different sections that we have, and it essentially gives you all of that information for the different data points that you are referring to within this table. So pretty straightforward, and it actually, it took less than 5 minutes to pretty much load into the Athena query and be able to showcase this data.
Yeah, and then this way, like now if you needed to run quick reporting, you can export any of these to a CSV. This is pretty simple.
Yep. Okay. So once we do that, now we're going to create some views. All right. So right here, we're going to go to our save queries, which we have also covered in our last week's episode. So you can always go back to that community page that we talked about before. And so what we're going to do is look for the customer lifetime data, lifetime value. So we'll load this query. And as you can see, it gives you pretty much, it's already loaded into the query editor. And like I showed last time, even though you have two queries within one, if you go ahead and just, since we're creating this view, we're only going to highlight the first one from line 1 to 6. And that, whatever it is highlighted, is essentially what will be ran. So we'll go ahead and run it. And as you can see, the query was successful. So
now you've got that little view on the left side.
Now you have the little view on the left side, exactly. So now we're going to go and run the select from customer lifetime query. And then we're going to go see it running. And then now you actually have all the details within that specific view. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I feel like we're getting through it really good this time, knock on wood.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you totally fine. Don't call the audio. Okay, great. So we have done that so far now. And like we pointed out, now you can see it under the views that you have pretty much the different information, which is what we see here, right? The customer ID, the full name of the customer, the country, and the lifetime value.
So again, if you want like a specific cut of the data, like let's say you've got a big file, not only is this view helpful, but since Athena is charging you based on the amount of data that it's querying, then you basically can scope down the impact, even if you want to like dump everything out, like you're still gonna save some costs there.
Yeah. So one other thing that I want to query as well, cover here as well, is the query results and history. So Athena automatically stores the query results and the metadata information for each of the queries that you do run. And then also you can specify in which S3 bucket that could be kept, right? If it's necessary, then you can always exit and look back at your queries. It's exactly what you've been doing. For example, in this specific scenario, I can literally just go back to my recent queries tab, and it's pretty much going to showcase every single query that I have ran. And then it also tells you the really cool thing, it's whether it failed, whether it was completed, the status pretty much of each one, how long it took to run, and how much data was scanned, which is, pretty cool to always come back and kind of see those results as well.
Or if you want to find out what your coworker Carl was doing.
Yeah, what were they looking at?
You
exactly.
can check out the bucket. So,
or how we were talking about the cost and usage data as well. Sometimes some of the reporting that the FinOps practices get, it's like a monthly thing, and sometimes it's actually pretty good and handy to either have those in your recent queries and actually save them. So then, like that, you're not actually doing these queries every single time. They're already saved, and you can just come in and run them on a monthly basis if that's what you like to do. Or then, it just depends on the parameters that you use of the data that you're wanting to look back into. All right, cool. So with that, let's jump into the query results and reuse. So how Matt was just talking about, right? With Amazon Athena, you pretty much are paying for the data that is pretty much, being queried, right? So in the instance that you want to save some money and like not go back and scan all of the data all the time, but actually reuse the query results from previous queries, that could be a very great way to kind of have that cost optimization mindset, right? A lot of the times, a lot of people ask about like, oh, what is the best ways that you can save money and things like that. So if it's something that you're doing today, and you are querying kind of like most of the commenting from that same data source, from that same, like, I guess, like partition data, it's a really good way to kind of reuse those and be able to kind of have it a better way that way when it comes to cost.
I agree.
All right. So if we go back to the editor, as you can see here, we do have a toggle here to, we have it turned off right now, but it's like the reuse query results. You can pretty much set for how long you want to keep it. For example, the default one that we have right now is up to 60 minutes ago. So I can come back and reuse the query from like the past hour. But if I wanted to turn it on, let's say, right, I can pretty much toggle it to turn it on, and then I can edit it. And let's say you don't want to do a whole 60 minutes. So let's say you only wanted to keep it for half an hour. You can pretty much go ahead and do that.
So you've got a built-in essentially cache, and maybe your data isn't refreshed that often. Maybe it's only, you have this glue crawler doing it once a day. So maybe you can reuse that 24 hours.
Yeah, and then also when we're talking about performance, it also helps with the performance as well. So right now, for example, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a here, and then I'm just going to run a query here, and just let's see how long it takes. All right. So that completed, and it gives us, and take a look at how much of the data was scanned, and that took 5.75 seconds. So it pretty much has the output of the data, correct?
But go back up. It was how many gigs?
Oh, right here.
Okay, it's 205 megs, so not that big of a file.
Not bad, right? So then let's say that we want to go ahead and we want to run it again. So did you see the difference? How much data scan was it this time?
That doesn't even show up.
It doesn't have any data scan, because if you go back to the recent queries, then you will see the runtime, and then you see the cache. It was a result that was reused because we toggled that to turn on and to pretty much look at within that same data from the past 30 minutes. And since we did it back to back, instead of going back and querying the whole set of data, then it just came back from the cache itself. So, and it took, like, look at the difference in time that it took between the two. So milliseconds to 5.75 seconds, which is still not bad. It's pretty great, but taking 97 milliseconds is still pretty great when you're just using the cache pretty much.
And we're talking about crawling 200 meg. Like, now think about a file that's terabytes and terabytes.
Exactly.
Question from the audience: does the cache clear if you do a different query?
So the cache, like I said in this step before, right? You have the ability to pretty much edit how long you want that cache to stay there, or how much to be able to use it. So let's say that you don't want to look at the cache anymore, you would just toggle it off, or just go as what your requirement is that you're trying to meet. If you want to go through the data all over every single time that you query, you could do that. You would just not look through the cache.
Good question.
Yep. Okay. So we are there. Now, what we're going to do now is, it's very common for raw data coming into the data lake to be on CSV or text format. So these formats are not optimal for querying with Athena and other engines. And it's always advisable to convert the data into columnar formats like Parquet. So pretty much what we're going to do here is that we're going to create table as select or CTask query to create a new table from an existing CSV format table. And so this CTask query will create a new Parquet format table with compression and partitioning, and then populate it with the data. So for this,
This is our optimization tip number 2 then. Zamora.
Yeah, this is optimization number 2. Yes.
Query reuse, and then 2. Let's convert that CSV to Parquet.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to go back to my saved queries, and we're pretty much going to click on this one. And like I said before, you can load the queries here, the saved queries, but then you can go one by one, right? So we're first going to do the create table. So I'm going to select from the first line all the way to line 19. And then I'm going to hit run.
See, I need the music ready when you hit run.
Oh, yes. You have to have the elevator music. It should probably take a minute or two to do this.
Oh, it's. I thought it was going to be quicker.
No, yeah, this one it's taking a bit longer.
So this is a conversion you do once, and then all of a sudden now you're saving money. Where does it store the Parquet file?
Well, it would essentially be in your S3 bucket, right? Because that's where you're keeping all your data.
Okay.
So the conversion is taking place, and then we will run the second query that will be pretty much essentially creating that table. Any questions so far? Well, we have the elevator music.
I think this is better than elevator music right now.
I know. It's great music. Okay, so successful. We did that. And so now we're gonna go ahead and create the table. So and this one goes all the way to line 29. So we'll run it. And so we have it. So we have first name, last name, and total sales.
Great.
All right. So we have now successfully created a new table in our data lake and populated it with the data using Athena create tables as CTask query. So pretty straightforward. So far, I feel like we're kind of getting through this pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think sometimes simple is good.
No, totally, 100%.
We want folks to not be afraid to just like start fooling around with data that they've got, especially if they're just getting started on AWS. This is a good relatively cheap way to do some data analysis.
Exactly. And so like what I always tell my customers too, whenever they're diving into a new service, or, you know, engineering teams are like wanting to kind of get their hands-on experience with one of our AWS services, like a great way to do that is always to look for those workshops, beginner workshops, if you're just starting off with the service, and then you kind of work yourself up. For me, personally, I love to be hands-on, and I feel like that is a quicker way for me to learn how to use different things rather than just go through and read the documentation. I like to leverage the documentation when I'm kind of looking at something very specific or capability, but when it's to actually build it and leverage it in a certain way that I want it to have like a specific outcome, I always like to just kind of be like on the console, have my terminal, do it that way, because then I feel like I grasp the content a lot more faster. I don't know about you, Matt, but that's just kind of my preferred learning method, I guess.
Yeah, that's me actually learning as opposed to just memorizing something.
Exactly. Like, you know, when you're reading through things, it's like sometimes you're like, okay, yeah. And you kind of got to read it once, read it twice to kind of grasp it and be like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. But then sometimes when you're actually seeing in action, I feel like it goes back like a lot faster of how you absorb that knowledge.
Agreed.
All right. So we have pretty much gone through, you know, just the creating tables, being able to go ahead and run some queries, and then just kind of showcase how straightforward it is to use Athena. One of the things that I really want to also focus on is on the feature of the work groups. You always want to kind of like, you know, how we always say, like, who has privilege to what, private to what information, and what you could do and what you cannot do, depending on what job you have within the company or organization that you're working for, or maybe you're in a team and not every single team member needs to have access to the same things as everybody else. So this is where work groups come in, right? So I have like different work groups right now. We have mainly been working out of the primary, which let's say is the one that your administrator will have access to, right? Has all of the data, has all of the tables, has everything pretty much that you have within your team. But let's say that you don't want to have that visibility across the team, and you want to kind of become a little more restrictive with what can be queried and what can be used within your team itself. So this is a great way that you can do that, is creating those work groups. I'm just curious to know if any of our viewers are joining today have had any experience with using Athena, and maybe they're already using work groups and can give the feedback on how, that kind of works for them, whether it's too restrictive and you just wish you had access to everything. I think that we all agree that would be like, kind of the feedback, but it's always good to make sure that whoever has access to the data should be having access to the data. I think it's pretty important. All right. So for we did at the beginning of the last session last week, I did talk about some of the settings that you can do and how you can manage your different work groups. I've been mainly working on the primary one, so it has like all of the details when I clicks on it, right? One thing that you can do is do data usage control, and this is, let's say that you, like we talked about, right? Like the pricing is how much data you're pretty much querying. So let's say that you want to make sure that people are not, querying through terabytes of data, because like we said before, that will incur a lot of charges. And you want to limit a certain work group to only, kind of have access to a specific amount of data that it could be queried, rather than just have like access to the whole entire thing. So that's something that you would do us here, and we will also walk through it. Another thing that we talked about and that I said that it was important is to have your metrics turn on, so they could be also reporting. And so as you could see,
or alarming.
Oh yeah, or alarming. Exactly. You want to see how you're performing, or your team is performing. So for example, here we can totally see the total data is scanned, how many megabytes have been scanned, the successful and error rates, any failed queries, which we haven't had any failed queries today, total execution seconds. So it can give you those data points that you're looking for to meet your requirements as you work on these. So always good to have your metrics turn on, so you can always have that to go back and look into, or, kind of investigate if something it's not performing as it should.
You're doing great.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's go into work group A. So we were talking about how you have the ability to kind of have that restriction on how much data somebody can use, right? So we want to, let's say, kind of restrict group A from having, query a massive amount of data. So I'm going to go to data usage controls for group A, work group A, and then I'll click on manage. So right now there is no data limit, but let's say I want to input a limit, and pretty much you can put here, and then you have the options of the different limits that you can impose. I'm going to do 15 MBs, so then I'll go ahead and click save. And now we are going to go ahead and we are going to test that. So let's see.
Our friend says he wants exabytes of data. That's not gonna be cheap.
No, it is not. Okay, so we'll go back to our query editor, and we're going to switch out of our primary, and we're going to go to group A. We're going to click acknowledge because we're switching between work groups. I'm logged in as an ops role, so I have access to have that. If you are in group A, I don't think that you can toggle into the primary unless you actually have explicit permissions to able to do so. So as you can see, we're here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and just make sure that we have a group A. I'm going to go ahead and load it. And so if I just run this one, customer CSV, it has exceeded. It says bytes scan limit was exceeded. So it tells you this query will fail as it exceeds the 15 MB limit that we impose.
So this is another way. This is our third optimization tip.
Cost optimization. There you go.
So if you don't want people just dumping out select star the whole table, costing you a bunch of money, you can set these limits here.
Exactly, 100%. So now let's run the second query. So you know how we talked a lot last session about the difference between querying CSV and Parquet? We talked about that. That's another way of cost optimization. So now we're going to run the same query again, different format. And we have our data come back. And as you can see, the data scanned was only 12.08 MBs. So it was within that limit that we implied. So all of our data came back and we're able to query and have those results. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. If you're not using Parquet, they're like, well, no, you can't do anything.
No, you can't do anything, exactly. Okay. All right. So let me see. What else did I want to cover with you? I just want to make sure that I cover everything. La, la, la. Okay. So that's that. And so then one of the things that I really also wanted to cover with everyone today was how you can visualize with Amazon QuickSight. So that's one of the things that we will be doing today.
Because that's the title. That's what you said the title was going to be today.
That was what the title was to be today. I really wanted to cover it extensively, but then at the same time, I didn't want to leave kind of like halfway through what I had, the different topics that I wanted to cover last week. So I just thought a perfect opportunity to continue on where we left off. So for those viewers that like to binge watch your show, then it's a continuity.
I don't know if anyone's binge watching this show. I think they tune in, get a couple good nuggets of information, and continue on.
Oh, come on, Matt. They binge watch your show. Okay, so perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna go to Amazon QuickSight.
And I also want to say for our audience, and then those that maybe you're tuning in the recording too, like, most of you are probably more visual people. And so running out a report and outputting a CSV file, great. Like, I send that on an email, I call it a day. But really, I think what most people like these days when they and keep going.
Okay.
What most people like these days is some nice, pretty charts. They don't want to have to go through the data themselves. They don't want to have to do their own pivots in Excel. They want the shiny, colorful charts to tell them, to show them things. And then they ask you questions about those things.
I was just going to say, and like the coolest thing now too, because like, you know, when I first started playing around with Amazon QuickSight, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And at the beginning, we had Amazon for Q, and it was like you could create the topics, and you can create topics based on the dashboards that you wanted to see. And it was very interactive. It was very straightforward for the users. But then now we also have it that we can start asking Q to create those charts and those visuals for us with the integration with QuickSight. So it's like, I feel like it's a complete game changer as well. I love to do that because sometimes we spend so much time trying to figure out how to best display your data that whenever I started actually using Amazon Q within my dashboards and my analysis, it was like, oh, I just want a chart that shows me this, and that, and then it would output and be exactly what I wanted. So like so much more productive and straightforward than like you're trying to figure it out which visual works best for what. All right.
And I would say, feel free to
go ahead.
While I'm talking.
Go ahead. Yes.
But like, I would say that's like, to me, like some of the best use of AI is I want the AI to do computer actions for me. If I don't have to click around to do things and I can just say what I want and then I get it, that's great. I love that. As opposed to like, you know, it's great for writing, but like I need to think about what I'm writing. I want to select my words. But this is like, I would like the AI to make me the pretty chart.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and put your email. Then your authentication method just stays.
You're showing the
sorry.
other, yeah.
Yeah, I just realized, my bad. Okay, so the authentication method, you're gonna leave it as is, select the region. And so this is something that I actually wanted to like showcase within here. So the region, for the purpose of what I want to showcase and kind of bring light into, I'm gonna choose a different region, okay? We've been working out of, you'll see why.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and choose another region. So let's say I want to do Sydney. Okay, so
We're going up. We're going down under, everyone.
Yeah, we're going down under. So we'll go back to this, and then I'll enter, and then I'll leave everything as is with the Sydney. You can do a unique account name. Let's call it tech tales.
And this is only for like the first time when you set this up. After
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. This is literally the first time that you're coming in. You have never interacted with QuickSight. This is the first time that you're going to navigate into it. This will be like the things that you will take care of in the setup. After you're done with these steps, you don't have to do it again, unless you're doing the add-ons, and then that takes you back to doing like Amazon Q, the pixel pages, all of those things that you want to like integrate into your QuickSight that costs extra money. Exactly. So I put TechTales demo. I hope that is a peculiar name and it hasn't been taken. I'm gonna leave it as the default. Allow access to Auto Discovery 4, and I want to definitely do Amazon S3. Then I'm going to automatically asks you for which bucket. So I'm just going to select all of them, and I'll click on finish. And then since we're talking about Amazon Athena, then obviously I want to also do Amazon Athena. Okay, click next, and then we have that as well. Finish. Okay, so we're talking about the add-on, right? Like the Pixel Perfect reports. This is where you would make that decision. I mean, you can always come back and do it. I don't need it for this specific one, so I'm just gonna toggle it off. I don't want to, and then I'll just go ahead and click finish. And it's pretty straightforward and quickly. It doesn't take too long to create. You can put the elevator music, and we can dance while we wait.
I don't know. Is it gonna take that long for elevator music? Let's see how quickly I can get it back on.
Not me finding an excuse to get some elevator music.
I didn't know that this demo needed a lot of music today.
Yeah, it's always good. I love music.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. Account created successfully. So in here, we're just gonna go to QuickSight. And this is where I want you all to pay really close attention. Okay. So now we're here. You kind of get like the regular, like samples of analysis and things to kind of give you some data points on how to create your own. Pretty straightforward. You can go through the different dashboards. You can always refer back to our community page. I actually have a couple of episodes that concentrate on Amazon QuickSight, so feel free to watch those as you get up to date if you have never used QuickSight before. So I want to create a new analysis. And so I'll go ahead and I'll do new analysis, new data set, and I want to connect to Amazon Athena. So I'm going to give it a data source name. So I'm going to just call it, copy this, and then call it Athena immersion. Then the Athena work group, I want to keep it as the primary. And then I'm going to go ahead. But this is where you will pick the different work groups that we talked about whenever we were in the Athena console.
So this is the secret sauce here to take all that stuff that we just did and then say, hey, you have access to it now.
Yeah. So then this is where the whole why I wanted to showcase about, like, remember how we toggled from the Virginia region to the Sydney region. And now that we're trying to connect, it says my AWS data catalog has no tables. But as you'll know, in the today's episode and our previous episode, all we did was create tables and views. So we should have data, right? So does anybody want to take a wild guess as to why I am not able to choose a table and I don't have visibility into any of the data that we have built in Amazon Athena right now when we're trying to connect it in QuickSight to visualize?
Let's see what they say. I feel like you've signaled what the answer is.
I know. I think that I kind of dropped a lot of hints. Just curious to know if
yeah, Leah, wrong region.
Wrong region, exactly. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out.
Get out.
Get out. So the really cool thing is that if this happens, and you know for sure, because I mean you were just working on your Athena stuff, you're like, I know there's stuff there. There's no way there's nothing there. Just make sure that you're in the same region where you created all of that. So in this instance, we created in Sydney for QuickSight when we created the account, but I can toggle back into US East, Northern Virginia. Oh, there you go. And so now, just double checking, we're in the region. So now we're gonna go through the process all over again. So new analysis, new data set. I want to select Athena. I want to call it Athena Immersion, my primary, create data source. I want to choose my default, and there it is. Something so simple. Sometimes I feel like, little things that you don't really think about. And this actually happened to me one time. So this is why I wanted to bring it up today, because it's something so small, like a small detail that you might overlook whenever you're switching between regions and where you're creating all your views and tables. Then it's so always something to keep in mind whenever you're wanting to then connect your Athena to QuickSight and then visualize. Okay, cool. So I'm going to do the customer sales CTAS. I believe that that's the only one that I want to do. And then I'm going to do select. And I want to, you can either do it with this import with Spice for quicker analytics, or you could do directly query your data. I want to directly query my data. And then I'm going to hit the visualize.
So if you do pick Spice, that can come with an extra cost. But
yes.
Your dashboards will load super fast. So
yeah,
if that's important to you, then go for it.
That's correct. And then in here, so do you remember how I had that option to have the pixel perfect reports and I decline it? So I don't even have an option to even try to do that. So I just have the interactive sheet. So I'm going to hit create. And that's pretty much it. So now we see that we have all of our different fields to start already visualizing our data. The really cool thing about this one, I really like, is the autograph. It's a really quick way to kind of start building visuals if you don't know exactly what you want to build, and then kind of go from there and specify specifically what you want to do. So let's say, for instance, that we want to create a chart, and we want to kind of have the country field into the autograph and see what it pops. So all we do is pretty much click the field for country. And as you can see, it automatically gives you the records by country. So you have like an instantaneous output of a visual of your data querying directly from Athena.
And it also helps prevent decision paralysis.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, like, there is a lot you can do here, like a lot. I mean, think about it. As a TAM, for example, we work a lot with talking with our customers about cost optimizations and the different ways that, people like to consume their data. Sometimes they like to share cost information between teams across the organization. And I feel like Amazon QuickSight is always a great source to do that. It's a great way to present those reports and kind of review and really take a look at the areas that you want to focus the most, whatever makes sense on whatever that you're working at the time.
And the magic here, going through all the steps from the beginning of this hour to now, is you've got a glue crawler that's keeping this data up to date. We're querying this Athena table directly, so this will be consistently up to date. If you were caching it in Spice, then you would set some sort of schedule there. But so then anytime you load this dashboard, it's up to date data that you can make decisions off of, and you can move fast. And I think that's really where like this. I mean, BI has been around for a while, but I think that as the data gravity shifts to wherever you keep it, this is an awesome tool.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, so you already have it connected to Athena. You're already directly querying your information from there, your data. There is many ways that you can visualize it. I mean, it's a lot what you can do. If you made a mistake and let's say you lost your data, you can always go back and undo, and that take you right back to where you were. I would highly suggest that you look more into this, play around with it. So I am excited to see, or you'll come back next week as I wrap up the Amazon Athena series and tell me, yes, I went and I did all of that tomorrow and it was pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And now I want to use QuickSight all the time.
Well, if they want to test it out, kick the tires themselves, where do you suggest that they start? Is there
yes, so there is a Athena Basics workshop, and I'm not sure if you have it, but let me look for it. So I'll give you the link right now,
and I will put it in the chat.
One advice that we always give while we go through this, and we advise for all of you to go through the different workshops, is please do make sure that you do your due diligence and you clean up all of the different resources and things that you have used throughout the workshop at the end. All of our workshops usually do have that cleanup instructions as well to make sure that you're not continuing to incur charges that are related to those workshops that you have deployed as you deep dive into new services or want to advance your knowledge within a specific service, or multi-service usage like we have been doing so far when we're using Athena, we're using Glue, we're using QuickSight. And so, yeah, it's always good to keep in mind.
Or just keep closing those accounts. I'm starting to get bills of $2 from my old study accounts still. And I'm like, do I want to still keep them? It took me a while to build all that whole organization out, but
like
you can
another
just close all your accounts.
Yeah, that's true. But then another great way that you can keep track of how much you're spending, and if you don't want to, kind of go over that, is leveraging the budgets. I feel like that is really great whenever you really want to keep an eye on what you're spending, or if there's like something specific that you want to get alerted on. I feel like that would be like a pretty great solution when it comes to cost optimization for your accounts and usage as well.
I agree.
Well, that's all I had for you all today. I do want to continue talking about Athena and kind of going and continuing to doing different things, and as we build our knowledge within this specific service. So for next week, I do want to kind of touch upon Athena Federation and then some user-defined functions, and then just kind of cover as much as I can as we wrapped up, just kind of like the basics of Amazon Athena. And for those of you that have never kind of interacted with the service before or are growing your knowledge within this specific service and its capabilities.
Yeah, folks, if you've got any questions, let us know. If you've got any suggestions for when we come back to the topic next week, put it in the chat. If you don't have them now, then feel free to come back next week. I don't know, what's some of our parting thoughts for what we covered today?
I think I've covered everything. I think that it's a pretty straightforward, a service to use. Thankfully, we didn't incur any difficulties today, so I think that it was a very productive session. But like I just keep telling everybody, get your hands on keyboard, kind of play around with it, do your own thing, go through the workshop. Come back next week and tell me what your experience is. Maybe you want to branch out from the workshop and kind of start doing your own thing. Let me know how that goes, what your experience was like.
I mean, there's so many public data sets out there that you can download and play around with. Just make sure they're not so big. If you want to keep those costs down in the less than dollars, But yeah, I always think I'm gonna do something fun with like theme park ride data, and I never get around to doing it.
Oh, but you have to. You've been saying that for a while now. You
Yeah.
have to make it happen.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for joining us today. I got some thank yous in the chat. So thank you both for tuning in, and
Thank
please
you.
come back next week if you've got time during this hour from 5 to 6 Eastern, 2 to 3 Pacific. We will be here next week to finish this series out and give Zamara one last chance to have a technical difficulty.
No. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.